Hello, and welcome to my Mother's Day month, not day, my Mother's Month special titled Mom and I. And yeah, you guessed this beautiful thing who looks like my sister is my mom. Hello.
Hello.
So, yay. And if you saw my promo video, you know her name is Deborah. We'll think of a public moniker for her at a different time. But I'm super excited. Are you glad to be here?
I'm very excited to be here. Can't
Mom,
wait to get started.
I know. And this is your first time being on my show.
It is.
Like ever.
On camera, period.
Yeah. Wait, back in the day when we had the restaurant, you weren't on camera?
No, I wasn't.
So let me give y'all a quick fun fact. So my father was a pilot in the Army during my adolescent years. And when he got out, my parents went into business. So they've had various type of restaurants and seafood market. Well, for our soul food restaurant, when I was 14 years old, I was actually in the commercial for our restaurant. So honey, I've been on camera my whole life, and that wasn't the only time I've been on camera. I've been on camera several times in different, in ways, but I think that might have been my first time.
I think so.
Yeah, that was my first time on camera. So I was born for the camera. So I'm super excited. So this is my Mom and I series, and like I was saying on the promo video, my mom is like my best friend. If you saw the promo, you heard me say she's my bestest. She's my bestest friend, but we have had challenges along the way. And so many women that I meet, so many women that I talk to, that we talk to, just have challenges with their mother-daughter relationships, which is unfortunately a very common situation. So we're going to just be transparent, share just tidbits of our story. If you have questions or statements, we want your feedback. Say what you got to say. We got some thick skin around here.
We do now.
We do. I know. We do for sure. But we want to hear from you. So ask us anything. My mom is actually a mom of four. If you can believe it, she's a mom of four, and then she has grandkids. So even if it's not something I personally went through that you want her feedback on, out of the four of us, 3 girls and a boy, trust me, there's nothing new that she has not heard, seen.
Right.
Yeah, she's been through it all. So send us your feedback, send us your questions, DM me. Don't send them to her, but I don't think I'm even going to tell them your thing because, she's not all into the public space.
No, I am not.
So DM me on Facebook or Instagram, or you can shoot me an email, NikkiFlow LLC 2.0 at gmail.com. And then my website launches this month. I don't know if it's going to be up by the time this is, but it launches this month. And so you can just go to NikkiFlowLLC.com and just shoot me an email there. So we definitely, through this entire month, we want your questions, we want your feedback, and we'll share our perspectives.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. We own our imperfection. We actually, we have no problem with that because it really gives us the opportunity to talk about how faithful God is through healing and growth and acknowledgement, truth and awareness. So we're not perfect, but we're just sharing our story, and we'll be more than glad to share your perspective. If you know me, if you've ever heard me speak or anything, it's going to be rooted in the word. Even if I'm still growing into it, God's word is his word, regardless of. So
yes,
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
So a little bit about me for those who are new. Hi, welcome, thank you. I am a public speaker. I'm an empowerment speaker. The premise of whatever I talk about most of the time, 95% of the time, is going to be word-based, biblically based. And I'm an artist at heart. I'm a creative at heart. I love creating content. I've literally been doing it since I was a knee-high to a grasshopper, before there was of such thing as being a content creator. And I'm looking forward to really launching more of what I'm purposed to do, and that's connect with you, whether it's online or in person. Talking about relationships, talking about soul healing, talking about freedom from the inside out. No matter how successful we are in the natural, whether it's through career, no matter how much money we have. I don't know if I'm going to talk about my family money, but we've been very comfortable. I've known hardship as an adult, but growing up, we were just very, very comfortable. But regardless of any of those things, if you're not free in your heart and soul, if we're bound up in our soul, if we're depressed or oppressed, if we are hopeless in any kind of way, if we have a lot of drama and negativity and toxicity in our life, it really doesn't matter how much money you have. If we're not healthy from the inside out, we're still not going to live the abundant life that God has purposed for us, because it does start from the inside out. And it starts with us on an individual basis, because no matter what relationship we're in, we are in that relationship. So it can't be everybody else all the time.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm glad to have this time with my mom. So that's a little bit about me for those who don't know. And let's talk about my mom for a bit. So we'll tell a little bit about you. How old were you when you had me? Let's kind of set the stage just a bit.
I was very young, like super young. I was 18 years old when I had my daughter, Nicole.
That's my government name. I go by Nikki. Let me tell you this fun thing. I'm not even going to edit this out. Let me tell you the fun thing. Growing up, my mom only called me Nikki. Like, I have another family name that you will never hear. Never, ever. I don't know. Let somebody get in my comments and call me. I'm like, oh. But no, it's all good. So I have another family name that I grew up on. Like, pretty much everybody now calls me Nikki or whatever. But I did grow up with a family name. My mom never, ever, ever called me by the family name, ever. She always called me Nikki. Now that everybody calls me Nikki, she doesn't even call me Nikki. She calls me by my birth name, which is totally fine. So hopefully she doesn't have any more slip-ups. It's totally fine. And if you didn't know, my mom and I have the same laugh. We have a very distinctive laugh. And if you heard me laugh and you never met her, I get it from my mama. All right, so you were 18 years old when you had me. What was that like?
It was scary. I will say it was very scary. I was in college, and to find out you're pregnant, it was very scary.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? But fortunately, blessed enough to have supporting family after a while, after the shock. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Very supportive. They kept my baby while I went back to school, and allowed me to continue. So I was very blessed, but it was scary.
Yeah. So my mom wasn't at that time. She wasn't a single mom. Her and my dad got married.
Yes.
And they were in college. They were at the same university, and then so they got married. So my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, kept me while they finished school. And if she's watching, Miss Lula, who I just got to do a whole different segment on her, but she actually watched me while my grandmother went to work. So my grandmother and my paternal grandfather were in the school system, and they both were teachers, and they had other titles within the community. So Miss Lula actually watched me, and if you ever see her comment, she'll say, I'm her baby and she raised me, and she's so true. So and I'll circle back around to Miss Lula maybe in a different video, but yeah, that was kind of the start. My mom had me at 18 years old while she was in college. Luckily you did finish college, and so we'll get into that maybe in a different video. So you were scared, you had me. See, I kind of want to get to the hard stuff, but I want to set the stage with you, because it's important to kind of know where you were as I was a kid, but where you were. And for me, even with some of the challenging things that we're going to talk about, whether in this video or maybe another one, because we're doing this all month long, or if you have questions and it sparks something that we share, what I didn't realize as a kid when I thought my mom didn't love me, and I'll go into that in a minute, is that my mom was human, and she was 18 when she had me. So she was growing up with me being around, and I'm getting close to 40, but not there yet. She don't even look like she's a daughter in her late 30s, a kid in her late 30s. But as I'm approaching 40, I realize when you're in your 20s, like your late teens and 20s, you're still a kid. Like, you really are still a kid. So when I understood that, as I became an adult and walked into my own adulthood and motherhood, it was that much more easier for me to show you grace, because I understood, I'm like, my mom was a human. Like, you don't think of your parents as a human. You just think they should have all the answers and everything should be a particular way. And we know different relationships and different households have different dynamics. Right. And some people definitely experience things a lot harder than I do. So we definitely are understanding that maybe there was some different dynamics. And we'll touch on those in a different video. But yeah, so my mom had me at 18. So let me just get into it. I did not think my mom loved me growing up. I thought that, and I'm talking like 4 or 5 years old. Like, I've been an avid reader my entire life, so I was very quick intellectual. I was very intelligent. So especially like with emotional intelligence, like I've always been a very aware child. Do you remember me writing you letters at 5 asking you if you loved me? Yeah, I will always like. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, you've always been a person of words. Like to read, always use words. I won't say at 4 or 5, but like what? What are you talking about? But I do want to circle back around to when you said that I didn't love her.
I didn't think you did.
That's your
right.
to you, your truth, and that's fine. But it was not that I didn't love you.
Right.
It was seemed as if I didn't love you, and I truly can understand that now from this point now.
Yeah.
But it was at 18 having a baby. It was like you say, I'm young, growing up, learning myself, don't even know myself yet, and now I want to have a baby. I had a baby, but like I said, blessed enough to get married. I wasn't a single parent, and there's nothing wrong with single parent.
Because I'm a single parent right now. I've been married, but I'm currently a single parent.
Right. But it was just hard. It was difficult, and then you married to, you got to adjust to that, then adjust to a baby. But we'll get into all of that.
Yeah, we'll get into all that. So I didn't think my mom loved me, so I would write her these letters. I remember being like 5. I say 4 because I remember writing letters before we went to Seattle. We lived in Tacoma, Washington, and I was 5 in Tacoma. So I remember writing these letters and then rushing and giving them to her and then like running off. Very theatrical child. I am who I've been. But I remember writing those letters, and what I will say, because my mom and I have talked about everything. Like, this is not new to us. It's just that we're sharing, and I'm more open to sharing because this is just who I've been created to be. So thank you to my mom for being so courageous and coming in this public space, sharing something that we really hope is healing and enlightening and, joyful to people. But what I later found out in my 20s is, and I hope you don't mind going here, my mom, did not experience the type of respect that she should have in her late teens and early 20s and even in your 30s. And when I was younger, I was adored. And so seeing me adored, but then she didn't experience that herself in that particular relationship dynamic where she experienced hardship and pain, only created more of a wedge and with how she related to me, connected to me. So let me just be real and plain. If you see someone that's supposed to love you and treat you with respect and they don't, and they actually do the polar opposite, but to your child, to your daughter, they're adoring her, that caused a wedge. And so when my mom explained that to me in my 20s, it was like a light bulb for me. I'm like, I get it. Like, we can't control how we respond. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I get you are seeing your daughter being treated so well, and behind closed doors, it's hard for you. And so that completely changed how I connected with my mom too. And I had more compassion and understanding because, and I'm probably jumping some videos, but I don't know why I'm getting so emotional. My mom stuck through circumstances and situations that were not to her benefit at all for the betterment of her children. And so many women stay in unhealthy dynamics because of their children. And so the love that my siblings and it's not even just me, like the respect and the love that I have for her exceeds anything I could ever put into words with my communicative, articulate self, because it's just not measurable in human terms. And so I just thank her so much. And I'm going to even tell you, when I was in my mid-20s, I think I was in my mid-20s, God gave me a word for her. Do you remember, the situation? And it was basically him saying, it's okay to leave and it's okay to go and be free. And I didn't know that she had been praying and seeking God because she just couldn't stay in that particular dynamic anymore. I just was listening to what God said to me. And as I was telling her that God was telling me to share that it's okay. And let me tell you what I said, and then we'll get back to the beginning. I myself was leaving one state, coming back to Georgia, where I grew up. My dad was military, so again, we traveled a lot, but my roots are definitely in Georgia. I'm a Georgia girl. And so I was coming because I was in my own tumultuous relationship, and I had a newborn and a small child. And this was the first time; it would actually be another time. But anyway, I remember driving, and my parents met me halfway so that I wouldn't be by myself with the newborn coming on such a long trip. And God told me to tell my mom that we, her children, are not going to judge her. We appreciate her sacrifice, and it's okay to do what she has to do for her. That's exactly what God told me to tell her. So I'm looking face forward, driving, telling her what God has given me to say in the car, and she doesn't say anything. I'm not looking at her, but I don't hear anything. So I turn to look at her, and I just see tears streaming down her face. And I didn't say anything else. She didn't say anything. And when we got back to her house, honey, she started packing her bags and throwing things in my truck. That's a whole other thing. But you know what? And so that was something. And so this is a queen in my eyes, for sure. In my siblings' eyes, she is adored. She's loved and cherished. And it's going to be like that for the rest of the time. You see, she looks finer than wine. So, love you, Mommy.
That was a long time ago, but it's true, and it still touches me.
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, so I didn't think she loved me. And at the time, it's 4 of us now, but it was just 2 of us. So my brother and I are almost 2 years apart. So my brother was the baby. He was her son. And I felt like she just loved him way more than I did. But I don't think that didn't harp on that. Like, my brother and I, we were close growing up, even though he lied on me. But honey, we want to go there. He gonna have something to say about that. But I saw her give a lot of love to my brother. So that I had rejection and abandonment issues, and it made me feel like, oh, something was wrong. And I'm no longer a stressful test taker, but like, I felt like, she would get very frustrated with me when I was learning like my ABCs or whatever. And so because she got frustrated, she was like, she used to get that from my grandma, her mom, but my grandma's not like that anymore because, she's mature in age. And it would make me so tensed up. So I just became nervous with that type of pressure. So it was just hard. But I always just thought, I ruined my mom's life. She had me at 18 and I got in the way. Now, that was not the case. My mom was in survival mode. My mom actually grew up in a very small town, and she was always with her family. They were a very close group. So that's another thing. My mom left her home. You want to talk about like your upbringing a little bit? So you had a baby at 18. You grew up in a rural community, so the country, like we call the country. Now you're taken from that, and now you're traveling. You're not with your family.
Right.
You are married to someone who has a very strong personality. Which my dad has grown too, so he's not the same person that he was as well. Want to be fair in that. And so I love it. Honey, we can laugh and talk all the time. Okay, so you want to talk about how that was even different and a culture shock for you?
I'm going to go back just a little bit because I grew up 4 girls. I have 3 sisters. Mom and dad, was still together, so I had a mom and dad. And my mom and dad, to me, they been married 40, 50 years, perfect couple. I never saw them argue. I never saw them fuss and cuss, none of that. So all my sisters are very close, and I'm the first one to leave home.
Yeah.
It was sad for them. It was sad for me. So you go off to college. I'm 18, and now here I am. I'm pregnant. Okay, like Nikki says, I go into survival mode. I have to take care of the baby. I have to take care of my baby. Like I said, we had a supportive family. Thank goodness for that. Allowed me to go back to school. And then we leave Georgia because he was in the military. And after college, he was, commissioned. And we left and went to the furthest part of the United States you can go, to Washington State. And so, again, it was very traumatizing. I can't say that all 100% was bad. It wasn't. It was good. It allowed us to travel. I took care of my kids. They became like my friends to me, even though, it probably at times still didn't come across as that way. But it was interesting time, learning time, good time, some not so good time. But all of that to come to this point to hopefully help another mother and daughter, because we are super close now, and she is my best friend, and I love her to life.
Yes,
To
life.
And if she doesn't call me every day, I'm calling that night. I'm like, okay, what's going on? What are you doing? But yeah, I love Nikki, and it just, our path can determine a lot moving forward. But if you want change, you have to put the work into it.
So let me step on that. So you're right. Our past experiences, and usually whether it's when we're kids or teenagers or whatever, it shapes us and molds us in certain ways. And if we don't have the tools and the resources to tap into, why do I feel the way that I feel? Why do I respond this way? What are my triggers? Like, you didn't have that. That was not the verbiage when you were growing up. And it wasn't really the verbiage when I was growing up either. I'm very intentional at this point. I think just collectively and globally, the world is kind of shifting to a place of getting therapy, going to a therapist if necessary. But what I will say, my upbringing, and we'll get into some meatier things, but my upbringing, like, for me, I'm really big on communication. And I actually don't mind having critical conversations, especially if I know someone's going to be honest back. I think for me, if I know that someone's just going to be disingenuous or dishonest because I've tried to have those conversations, then I kind of just like, okay, well, we're not going to beat a dead horse. But, with my own children and with my mom and other people that I'm close to, I definitely believe in just having those hard conversations, not just to have them, but so that we can get on the same page, and then we can build, especially if you want to be close to someone. So I'm very aware, and I'm raising my kids to be very aware, but you didn't have those tools when you were 18, 19, 20, in your 30s to even say, I'm responding this way because of A, B, C, D, and E. Yeah.
And to go back, I want to definitely say this. And Nikki didn't have those tools either, like she said, growing up. And she left at an early age, and she got married. I did everything I could in the book to persuade her not to get married. But, when young people say they think they're in love, they're going to go ahead and do what they're going to do. But I will say about Nikki, she is a phenomenal mother.
Thank you, Mommy.
She has two of my two grandkids. She is a phenomenal mother.
Thank you, Mommy.
And she is teaching them, showing them, being truthful with them. Sometimes, the conversation come up with, I'm like,
listen, if you're going to be close to me, I'm going to be very honest. Like, I'm not going to bite my tongue. I'm not going to sugarcoat you. But go ahead and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, she is very open and honest with the kids. She gives them that freedom to express themselves truthfully, be, whatever in all areas. So my hat goes off to her, because she, like you say, she's a single parent, and she is doing. And not just because she's my daughter. If I see another young lady with the same, doing the same, I would tell them the same thing. She's doing great. And I like her kids. Mom.
You like your grandkids?
No. I like that they come to.
I'm just playing.
I like because they come to her and they will ask her anything. And she doesn't get that squeamish feeling like, but she'll just sit there and she will explain it to them. Do you have any questions for me? And they may have questions, but she is doing it, to me, the right way.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm glad you said that. And again, we're doing this all month long. So if you feel like, oh, I want more, I need to, what more meatier things do y'all have to talk about? It's coming. But what I will say to your point, and thank you, and you always tell me what a great job I'm doing in the other family members. But the reason, well, let me tell you, I'll tell you the reason why, but let me just go back. No matter how you grow up, and no matter how you what your experiences are growing up. We don't have to repeat cycles. We really don't have to. So what I chose to do by the grace of God, and I thank God for his Holy Spirit, is the absolute opposite of what I experienced. I wanted to be very intentional with rearing my children in the opposite way, the way that I felt would empower them. So if I felt shut down or closed in where I couldn't express myself, I wanted to make sure that my kids felt that they could express themselves however they want to, as long as they're respectful. I'm a Southern girl, so I definitely grew up being very respectful to my elders, but feeling free to be who they are, to ask what they need to ask. I do not have a response when they say certain things that most people, and my mom was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I don't have to answer that question. Only because from the time they were little teeny tiny babies, I wanted them to feel very comfortable and safe asking me whatever. Because if I responded in a way that made them uncomfortable, I always felt like they wouldn't trust that I could handle whatever they needed to say. But my main point in saying that is, we don't have to repeat cycles. The Bible calls them generational iniquities. Like, we have the power and the authority to cut all of those harmful, unfruitful behaviors out. And there's different ways to go about doing that. This isn't the video to talk about it, but we don't have to repeat them. And what I want to say about my mom, especially now, keep in mind, I'm not her only child. You've had to have crucial conversations about one-on-one relationships with us, your children, and I've seen you take it. Like, you, as an adult parent, and even as a parent of a teenager, you can't control how your children process their childhood, how they interpret you as a parent, and what they consider to be your fault or what you should take responsibility for. And so when you have to sit and hear those hard truths from your child, a parent could either respond with haughtiness or arrogance or, shutting your child down or whatever, even in adulthood. But I've seen you actually sit and take it. I mean, I've seen it for myself, not even just for me, but my siblings, and hear those hard, uncomfortable truths and have those hard, uncomfortable conversations and navigate through that. And I think for an adult parent, that takes a lot of courage, because I know for a fact, and I've observed, where some parents shut their kid down and they create this barrier, like, you can't talk to me about anything, you can't be honest with me, because your honesty, your transparency, I'm going to label disrespectful. And so then the child will either shut down, and then they don't have the relationship that they really want with their parent, because the parent has made them feel that whatever they have to say, if it's what they don't want to hear, then it's not valuable enough to have the conversation, and they're being disrespectful about it. So thank you for creating a space, even in adulthood, for your kids to come and say, Mom, here's some things I want to talk with you. And the end result should always be healing, understanding, compassion, so that the relationship can blossom, not where it's about attacking, belittling, degrading, or anything of the sort. So hats off to you. And you're a great mom. Like, as for any parents out there, that your kids are not the same as teenagers as they were when they were in middle school or when they were in elementary. And so there have definitely been times throughout my motherhood journey where I've called my mom and needed to vent, needed her advice. I still want to know what her thoughts are. And you'll be surprised at things that you ask about, even with myself, like, whatever. You would think, like, you called your mom for that? Yes. You never grow up. And it's so funny because I see grandma, your mom, do the same thing with you. Like, my grandmother's in her 70s, almost 80, and she treats my mom like her baby still. Yeah. So anyway, this is just a little bit. We've got a lot to get into. We're going to talk about how my mom showed out at my wedding.
Are we doing this episode?
No. Episode. Okay. No, and whatever else she wants to talk about. I got married at 19. I don't feel like my mom articulated herself well at that time, because it came across mean, not like warning, but we'll talk about that. So she almost ruined my wedding. She was trying to save me from a whole lot of stuff, but it's all good. It all works out. But and whatever other fun, juicy things. So we hope you like this episode. You got something you want to say?
No.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed this. Just a little bit of a intro, a little bit of our who we are, what we're going to talk about. There's a whole bunch more to come, and we want to hear from you. So if you have any thoughts, if you have any questions, perspectives, we definitely want to talk about it. We smile a lot. That's just who we are as people. We laugh more than a lot. But just know that it hasn't always been peaches and cream. And I really want to drive that point home because I don't want anyone to think, oh, well, y'all are just so close and that's just how it is. And so you can't relate to some of the hard, horrible things that me and my mom have gone through. My mom knows pain from so many angles with having children as well as myself. And not even just with me, but just in different situations. So trust me, we have no shock factor. We have no shock value. Feel free to send your questions if you want. Get our perspectives. And we'll continue to share. So DM me your questions. Leave them in the comments. Send me an email. You can email me at my website if my website is launched. Clearly, this is pre-recorded. So by the time you see this, you know, we're not in May, we're in April. So it may be, so that's NikkiFlowLLC.com. But nevertheless, there's a what do you call it? There's a backup. It's a backup. So you can email me at NikkiFlowLLC 2.0. So you got to put that little point there, 2.0 @gmail.com. And I'm so glad to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here.
With her beautiful self. And we thank you for joining us. We're going to have a video release every Sunday in the month of May, and we may do some surprises in between. But until next time, I speak peace, love, and blessings to you. And from me and my mom to you and yours, thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.